Men get it wrong every time. They think if they give a woman their full attention, love and devotion, she will appreciate it and never leave. But in reality, the opposite happens. The harder you try, the more she pulls away. The more you prove your worth, the less valuable you become. The men who care the most, who give the most, who sacrifice the most, these are the ones women walk away from without hesitation. It doesn't make sense at first. You ask yourself, how could she leave when I did everything for her? But the answer is simple. You made her too comfortable and she lost respect for you. Women don't leave because they're ungrateful. They leave because they stop feeling attraction. And once that's gone, nothing else matters. A woman needs to feel your presence, but she also needs to feel your absence. If you're always available, always checking in, always proving your love, she starts seeing you as predictable, weak and replaceable. Women don't crave comfort. They crave the man they had to work for, the man they had to earn. This is why she leaves the man who gives her the world, but chases the man who gives her space. The guy she fights to keep, the one who doesn't let her take him for granted. That's the man she stays with. So, if you're the guy who thinks being the perfect boyfriend is the way to win a woman's heart forever, you've already lost. Women don't want the man who cares too much. They want the man who knows his value and never begs for their love. 1. You smother her with too much attention. A man who cares too much makes the critical mistake of always being present. He's constantly checking in, texting her good morning and good night, always available whenever she calls, and putting her at the center of his world. At first she might appreciate the effort, but over time, she starts feeling trapped. Women don't want a man who gives them everything on a silver platter. They want a man who makes them earn his time and attention. When you overinvest in a woman emotionally, she stops valuing your presence because you've made yourself too easy to access. This is why she loses interest in the guy who showers her with love, but chases the man who is a bit unpredictable. She wants to wonder, is he thinking about me? Will he text me today? That uncertainty creates excitement. But when a man is always there, she knows she doesn't have to do anything to keep him. Look at how women react to men who are too available. She starts cancelling plans, responding slower to texts, and acting distant. The reason? She's bored. You've eliminated the thrill, the feeling that she needs to impress you. She no longer sees you as a prize. You've become a routine. A practical example? Think about the guys who are always chasing, always giving flowers, gifts, and constant compliments. Those are the men who end up getting ghosted. But the man who makes her work for his attention, who texts sporadically, who seems to be living an exciting life without needing her validation, that's the man who keeps her interested. A woman should feel lucky to have access to your time, not feel like you're begging her to take it. The moment she senses you care more than she does, she starts mentally checking out. She starts looking elsewhere for excitement. To avoid this, stop prioritizing her over your own life. Stop acting like her approval is the most important thing. Show her you have a purpose, a mission, and a life that doesn't revolve around her. When you become the kind of man who can walk away if she doesn't respect your presence, she'll value you more. Because at the end of the day, women don't leave men they have to fight to keep. They leave the ones who smother them with attention and make their love too easy to get. 2. You make her your whole world. The moment a woman realizes she's the center of your life, she loses respect for you. Men think that giving a woman all their time, energy, and focus will make her appreciate them more. But in reality, it does the opposite. It makes her take you for granted. A man who puts a woman above everything, his goals, his friends, his purpose, kills the very attraction she had for him in the first place. Women don't admire men who make them their entire world. They admire men who have a world of their own. Let's say you meet a woman you really like. Instead of keeping your focus on your mission, you start changing your routine for her. You cancel plans to be available when she wants. You stop pursuing your hobbies to spend more time with her. You start asking her what she wants to do all the time instead of leading. At first, she might enjoy the attention, but soon she realizes something. You have no life outside of her. And once she realizes that, her attraction starts to fade. Why? Because women are wired to be drawn to men who are focused on something bigger than them. A man who has a purpose, who is constantly improving, who is busy building something valuable. That's the man a woman respects. That's the man she fights to be a part of. Look at the men who women chase the hardest. Are they the ones sitting around waiting for texts, planning their entire lives around a woman? No. They're the men who are on a mission, the ones who don't let a woman distract them from their path. Here's a practical example. Imagine two men. One man is always available, always texting, always willing to drop everything for a woman. The other man is focused on his work, his goals, and his growth. The first man makes the woman feel smothered. The second man makes her feel like she needs to earn a place in his life. Who do you think she will respect more? The second man, every single time. If a woman senses that she is your biggest priority, she loses the thrill of the chase. She knows she doesn't have to do anything to keep you because you've already given yourself away without her earning it. That's why women leave men who care too much, because these men become too predictable, too easy, and too dependent. She might like the attention at first, but over time, she will start looking for a man who challenges her, excites her, and makes her feel like she has to win him over. Never let a woman be the center of your life. Make your life so strong, so valuable, that she feels lucky to be a part of it. If she senses that you would collapse without her, she will leave and never look back. 3. You act too predictable. A man who is too predictable is a man who is easily replaced. Women crave excitement, mystery, and a sense of adventure. When a man becomes too routine, too easy to read, and too safe, she loses the emotional spark that made her attracted to him in the first place. At the beginning of the relationship, everything is fresh. She feels excited every time she sees you, wondering what you'll do next, what you'll say, or how you'll make her feel. But then, as time goes on, you start falling into the same habits. You text her the same way every day. You plan the same kinds of dates. You become predictable in your responses, your availability, and even your emotions. And the worst part? She starts anticipating everything you'll do before you even do it. When a woman can predict a man's every move, she stops feeling that sense of excitement around him. There's no more tension, no more anticipation, just a man who is too easy to read, too available, and too structured. She starts pulling away, not because she doesn't appreciate him, but because she no longer feels emotionally engaged. Think about the men women chase, the ones who keep them on their toes. These men aren't chaotic or unreliable, but they bring a level of unpredictability that keeps a woman emotionally invested. One day he's deeply engaged in conversation, the next he's busy handling his life. One moment he's sweet, and the next he's slightly distant. He's not playing games. He's just a man who refuses to be robotic in his behavior. Now, compare that to the man who does the same thing over and over. He texts her at the same time, asks the same questions, says, "I miss you," too often, and always plans the same predictable outings. At first, she might feel secure, but soon she feels trapped in a boring cycle. A real-world example? Think about a guy who always takes his woman to the same restaurant on the weekend, always texts at 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., and always responds immediately when she messages him. That's the kind of man she starts ignoring. But the man who breaks patterns, who sometimes texts, sometimes doesn't, who switches up his plans, who keeps her wondering what he'll do next, that's the man she stays interested in. A woman doesn't leave a man because he's too nice. She leaves because he's too predictable, too safe, too ordinary. She wants to feel like she's with a man who has layers, depth, and a sense of spontaneity. A man who challenges her emotions instead of always playing it safe. If she never wonders what's on your mind, if she always knows exactly what you'll do next, if she never has to think about whether you'll be available or not, she will mentally check out. A man who is too predictable is a man who is easy to replace. Women don't walk away from a man who excites them. They walk away from the man who makes life feel like a routine. 3. You put her feelings above your own. A man who constantly prioritizes a woman's emotions over his own loses her respect. Women don't want a man who bends over backward to keep them happy at all costs. They don't want a man who is afraid to disagree, afraid to lead, or afraid to say no because he fears upsetting her. Too many men make the mistake of trying to be the perfect boyfriend by always catering to her mood, agreeing with everything she says, and suppressing their own needs just to keep the peace. But in doing this, they become weak in her eyes. Women don't test weak men, they test strong men to see if they will break. And when you constantly put her emotions above yours, you fail her test every time. Think about it. A woman has an emotional reaction. She's upset over something minor. Instead of standing firm, you rush to fix it, apologize, or adjust your behavior just to avoid conflict. You start walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that might upset her. Over time, she realizes that you fear her emotions more than you respect your own values. That's when she stops respecting you. She might not leave immediately, but she will start pushing your boundaries more and more. She'll test how much you're willing to tolerate, how much you'll bend for her, and every time you let her emotions dictate your actions, you lose a little bit more of her attraction. A practical example, imagine a man who never stands up for himself in an argument. She complains and he immediately backs down. She makes unreasonable demands and he agrees just to keep her happy. At first, she might appreciate the attention, but soon she'll start despising him for being so weak. Now, contrast that with a man who isn't afraid to stand his ground. If she disrespects him, he calls it out. If she overreacts, He stays calm and doesn't let her emotions sway him. If she demands something unreasonable, he tells her no without fear. That's the man she respects. That's the man she stays attracted to. Women don't leave men who know how to handle their emotions with strength. They leave men who become emotional slaves to their mood swings. The solution? Put yourself first. Stop seeking her approval. Stop adjusting your behavior just to make her feel better. A real man stays true to himself, even if it means a woman gets upset for a while. Because at the end of the day, a woman doesn't leave because you care too much. She leaves because you don't have the backbone to demand respect. And without respect, love cannot exist. 5. You let her control the relationship. A woman will never stay with a man she can fully control. She might enjoy the power at first, but over time she will lose respect, lose attraction, and eventually leave. Too many men hand over control to a woman without even realizing it. They let her make all the decisions, dictate the pace of the relationship, and determine when things move forward or backward. They become followers instead of leaders. And here's the hard truth. Women don't want to lead in relationships. Even the most independent woman secretly wants a man who can take charge and make her feel safe in his leadership. Now, when I say control, I don't mean being aggressive or dominating her life. I mean being a man with a clear direction, a man who knows what he wants and doesn't allow a woman to dictate his every move. A lot of guys start strong. In the beginning, they set the tone. They plan dates, take initiative, and show confidence. But as time goes on, they start following her lead. They start waiting for her to decide when to go out, what to do, or even whether the relationship continues. They stop leading and become reactive instead of proactive. And guess what happens? She starts testing him. She starts seeing how much control she can take, how much he's willing to give up. And when she realizes she can make all the decisions, tell him what to do, and push him around emotionally, she loses attraction. A woman doesn't respect a man she can manipulate. She doesn't respect a man who asks for permission to be a man. She might enjoy the power for a while, but deep down, she craves a man who isn't afraid to stand on his own. A real-world example? Think about a guy who constantly asks his girlfriend for permission. Where do you want to eat? Are you okay if I go out with my friends? Do you still like me? He puts everything in her hands, waiting for her approval. Over time, she stops seeing him as a strong, decisive man. She starts feeling like she's the one running the show. Now, contrast that with a man who takes control of his own life. He tells her, I'm taking you to this new spot tonight, I think you'll love it. Or, I have plans this weekend, but I'll see you on Sunday. He moves with confidence, and he doesn't need her to validate his choices. That's the kind of man a woman respects. That's the kind of man she stays with. The solution? Stop handing over control. Lead the relationship. Make decisions without hesitation. Set boundaries and enforce them. If she tries to test you, stand firm. Because at the end of the day, a woman doesn't leave a man because he cares too much. She leaves because he let her take the driver's seat, and she never wanted to drive in the first place. 6. You make her the center of your world. The moment a man makes a woman the center of his world, he loses himself, and eventually he loses her too. At first, she might enjoy the attention. She might even feel special. But over time, she will begin to see you as a man without purpose, without ambition, and without a backbone. She won't say it outright, but deep down, she'll start to resent you for making her your only focus in life. This happens when a man neglects his mission, his growth, and his own identity just to keep a woman happy. He stops hanging out with his friends, stops pursuing his hobbies, and shifts all his energy into pleasing her. And what happens next? She gets bored, she gets annoyed, she starts to pull away. The hard truth is, a woman doesn't want to be your purpose. She wants to join a man who already has a purpose. She wants a man who is driven, ambitious, and has something bigger than her to focus on. If you drop everything just to make her happy, she'll quickly lose interest and start looking for a man who challenges her instead of worshipping her. Look at history. The most attractive men were never the ones begging for a woman's time. They were too busy conquering their world, too busy chasing their goals, too busy living for something greater than a relationship. And because of that, women wanted them even more. A real-world example? Think about a guy who texted his girlfriend every hour, always asked where she was, and adjusted his entire schedule just to be available for her. At first, she found it sweet, but over time, she started feeling suffocated. She began testing him, picking fights for no reason, and eventually, she walked away. Now, contrast that with a man who is focused on his purpose. He still gives her time, but he never lets her become his entire life. When she texts him, he responds when he's free. When she wants to meet, he makes plans, but only when it aligns with his priorities. She starts to crave his attention because she sees he isn't desperate for hers. That's the man she stays loyal to. That's the man she respects. The solution: stop making her your reason for living. Get back to your mission. Have goals, have a purpose, have a life that doesn't revolve around her. The moment she sees you as a man with direction, she'll chase you instead of running away. Because at the end of the day, a woman doesn't leave a man because he cares too much. She leaves because he cared about her more than he cared about himself. And no woman wants to be with a man who has no life of his own. 7. You never challenge her. A woman will never stay with a man who is too easy to predict, too agreeable, and too afraid to challenge her. If you're always nodding your head, always agreeing with everything she says, and never standing your ground, you're slowly making yourself irrelevant in her eyes. The modern man has been tricked into believing that the way to keep a woman is to never argue, never disagree, and always make her feel comfortable. But this approach doesn't create attraction, it destroys it. Women are drawn to men who have their own mind, their own opinions, and their own backbone. If she can push you around, if she can get away with disrespect, and if she knows you'll always bend just to keep her happy, she will lose all respect for you. At first, she might enjoy the power, but deep down, she will crave a man who stands firm, who doesn't just roll over whenever she wants something. If you're the type of guy who says yes to everything, who lets her dictate how things go, and who is too scared to challenge her when she's wrong, she will see you as weak. And a woman cannot love a weak man. Women respect men who have standards and aren't afraid to enforce them. This doesn't mean being rude or controlling. It means knowing your worth and not allowing yourself to be disrespected. Picture a guy who lets his girlfriend get away with anything. She flakes on plans, he says, "It's okay." She disrespects him in front of people, he just laughs it off. She asks him to change something about himself, he immediately does it, just to please her. First, she enjoys the power, but over time, she loses all attraction because he has no spine. She starts seeing him as someone she can control, and that's the beginning of the end. Now, contrast that with a man who sets clear boundaries. If she disrespects him, he calls it out. If she flakes on plans, he lets her know it's unacceptable. If she tries to change him, he stands firm and reminds her that he is who he is. That's the man she respects. That's the man she stays loyal to. Stop being afraid to challenge her. If she's wrong, call it out. If she's being disrespectful, don't tolerate it. If she tries to test you, stand firm. A woman doesn't leave a man because he cares too much. She leaves because he was too weak to challenge her, too afraid to lose her, and too desperate to keep her happy at all costs. Be the man who isn't afraid to say no. Be the man who keeps her on her toes. Be the man who stands firm, because once she realizes she can't push you around, she'll never want to leave. Women don't leave men because they care too much. They leave because they stop feeling attraction, respect, and excitement. A man who abandons his purpose, makes her his whole world, and refuses to challenge her will always be left behind. The solution is simple. Be a man she can admire. Stay focused on your mission, set boundaries, and never let her control your life. The moment she sees you as a man of value, a man with direction, and a man who stands firm, she will never want to leave. Because in the end, women don't leave strong men. They chase them.